Hey there, it's pyramid time again. And we are back again, come on! I've recently reacted to a big chunk of Joe Rogan Experience, I can't even talk, but today we're gonna see exactly the sections when they talked about the SAR-scan technology, the buildings under the pyramids. That section is fascinating. Let's start with something short and sweet. Check this out.
What if these Italian guys are onto something? You can find more stuff.
I want you to come to see what I do and what I discover.
I want.
Okay, so that was just to give you an idea of what we're doing today. So this is most likely we're going to be it's either it's in my book, I've been doing this for 52 years, or come to Egypt. It's literally this, but whatever. I'm really interested. You know me, I've already spoken extensively about the supposed alleged findings under the pyramids and the city of the dead, Amenti, and the aliens and all that kind of stuff. I'm very skeptical about it. With that being said, I'm interested to see what he does, because up to this point, he just laughed. But let's see. Heated debate about Khafre Pyramid SAR-scan Joe Rogan Experience. Let's go.
It's under the paper Signature Aperture Radar Doppler Tomography by Filippo Biondi. And if you scroll down,
Biondi,
Jamie, you'll see an image. And this image is of the Osiris shaft, which...
He made an interesting sound there. What was it?
Image is...
That sounded like a reptilian right there.
The Osiris shaft, which shows that they got an accurate depiction of that from space.
That's not true.
From satellite. It's not true.
No.
So what are you saying, that they're lying? So
They're
this
lying.
Right here.
They're completely lying.
But if they're showing, using these techniques, things that we know that you discovered that absolutely exist.
Now, these techniques, as I told you, scientists said that these techniques cannot show 600 feet under the pyramid. The Osiris shaft that I found was only 50 feet
Right, but
under
it's
the
showing, at least for 50 feet, that this is accurate. True. What makes you believe those scientists rather than these guys from Italy?
Because the scientists are scientists.
Well, these are scientists as well.
They are.
That is, Filippo Biondi, maybe, but Corrado Malanga and Armando May, Joe, if I can call you Mr. Rogan. No, let's not just give people the title of scientist just because the press says it, or just because TikTok says it. No, no.
They are not showing their techniques carefully. They have not.
What do you mean they're not showing their techniques carefully?
Take the techniques that they said and show it to any scientist. No.
He seems really angry about it, though. Him.
No one can tell you this is accurate. I asked every person who knows about radar, ultrasound, all the people work with me, the Scan Pyramid project. They said this is bullshit. It cannot happen at all. Now, tell me.
So you're telling me that these scientists that are proclaiming the capabilities of these satellite tomography devices that are saying that they can see kilometers into the ground with this stuff.
That's not true. I did.
Are you sure?
I did.
Do you understand the technology?
No, not me.
So
but
you're just listening to other people.
Scientists who are in.
Well, to be fair, yeah, exactly. Like one thing I think we can do, and I've mentioned this on my video reactions to the whole project thing, of which I'm very skeptical, as I said. I don't understand the technology either, so I don't judge it on the merits of the technology. I judge it on the merits of the methodology, of the historical justification, of the interpretations, of everything that they have done to build upon their interpretation of the data gathered by these scans. So, to be fair, the simple fact that we don't know exactly how this technique works, because we may not be SAR specialists on the field, doesn't mean that we shouldn't be skeptic and just accept it as the gospel of archaeology at this point. So even though I'm not a fan of Mr. Hawass up to this point, considering the reaction I did yesterday and the other reactions I'm going to do in the next couple of days, in this case, he said he asked other scientists. That is the correct thing to do. But then you would have to discuss the methodology, which I have. But let's see how this one continues.
This field.
Have you talked to these scientists that are saying that they have these discoveries?
I made a press release.
But did you talk to
They did,
them?
I did not.
Why not?
Because they did not talk to me. How can I find them? I made
Would you be willing to talk
Of
to
course
them if I
I
can
am.
connect you to them?
Yes.
Oh, that'd be good. If Joe Rogan can connect Armando May, Filippo Biondi, and Corrado Malanga in an interview with him, I would watch that immediately. That would be very interesting. But I don't think it should only be him. He also needs to bring someone else that he thinks is a reputable scientist and professional when it comes to SAR technology, so that we can have kind of a 2v2 or 2v3, that sort of situation. That would be interesting.
Okay, I'll connect you to them. I'm just interested if new technology becomes available and they figure out a way to look into the ground and you discover things, especially if they discover the Osiris shaft and it turns to actually
They
be
did
accurate.
not discover the Osiris shaft again.
Okay, you discovered it, but
Yeah, goodness gracious. We get it. We get it, Mr. Hawass. You discovered it. Again, I think there's a little bit of a language barrier here, but let's see.
they used their technology
it.
to show an accurate
Yeah.
depiction of the interior of the Osiris shaft.
The Osiris shaft
Is that true?
No.
It's not.
The Osiris
The
shaft.
images that we showed,
The
is that true?
The Osiris shaft is known to everyone.
Right.
It can be
But
seen by
when
everyone.
they turn their equipment on the Osiris shaft, it shows the actual interior.
Maybe, I don't know, but
Yes.
this is 50
Let's
feet.
look at it
But
again.
they're talking about 600 feet.
I understand, but if it can go 50 feet, why can't it go
Okay,
600
now
feet?
I am again.
Do you know?
Again, I'm not a scientist.
Right, so why are you dismissing it, though?
I gave what they
understand.
published
I
to a
understand.
scientist, and they said that's not true.
Yeah, there we go. So one thing that is strange now, he's saying, maybe I don't know. So if you don't know, it's strange that you will be that categorical in rejecting any possible findings. Because personally, I didn't necessarily have a problem when I reviewed how the technology was applied onto, for instance, the laboratories at the Gran Sasso d'Italia in the Abruzzo region of Italy, or for example, how the technology was used on the dam. It's like it looked like it worked for things that were above ground or even only minutely under the ground. The only complaint I had was the fact that this was not comparable to 648 meters under the ground or even all the way down to 2 kilometers under the ground. Also because if you consider the possible difference in the type of material that these two satellites that have been used may encounter and how that can affect the accuracy of the scans, but also water tables and whatnot. So I think it's fair to say the other tests that you have shown to demonstrate the viability and accuracy of this technology on stuff that we know has already been mapped are not sufficient because they appear to be different from what you claim to be able to do 2 kilometers under the ground. That's a fair critique that I myself have raised against the three scientists. However, what he seems to be doing now is to tell you categorically, no, it doesn't work. I don't care. It doesn't work. It's wrong. It's false. It's lying. And then where Joe presses with something that in this case I think is appropriate, saying, okay, but it seems like that they could map the Osiris shaft correctly, he says, I don't know. But if you don't know, how can you then be that categorical? That's why I say often I'm skeptical because of everything around it, everything surrounding it. I'm just not going to go into the details now, but I'll put some links in the description if you want to see what I mean by that. Particularly when it comes to the first section of the conference and the last section of the conference, which were the supposed justification based on culture, history, interpretation, and translation, which failed completely. And it was just a mess of numerology and the craziest application of selective bias. That's what I have a problem with. And of course, the reptilians that appeared on screen during the conference.
Okay,
But
but
no, listen,
scientists
then what
are
I did- what-
wrong all
okay,
the time,
fine,
particularly
fine.
ones that are biased.
Then
correct?
what I did,
That I would agree. Well, yeah, that doesn't mean that we can't trust scientists anymore because otherwise, I mean, it's scientists that built the microphone you're using, Joe Rogan, and the headphones that you're using and everything else. But I understand where he's going with this. He's saying just because someone is in a position of authority within academia, it doesn't mean that they are always right. You should always kind of double check and we should see the data ourselves and use your own critical thinking. I absolutely agree with that. Just wanted to kind of add a little caveat of interpretation. With that being said, you should also be then call out the bias on these three scientists because they have an enormous bias that is for everyone to see. Whereas this possible selective bias that you're mentioning now when it comes to the scientists that Dr. Hawass has interrogated about this, it's supposed. There may be There may not be. We don't know because we don't know who these people are. But we do know for a fact that the 3 people involved in these scans have a monumental bias on their side. We do know that. Just watch the conference or watch my translation of the conference, link in the description below, and you'll see what I mean. So out of these 2 groups of scientists, the one that we know for a fact have a bias are precisely the ones that push these scans and the interpretations thereof.
I made a press release
Okay.
Right.
explaining my point.
Yes.
And I said, my work of the second pyramid, that the base of the pyramid is 28 feet of solid rock.
Right.
And there is no way that anything can be happened in the solid rock. And I
Well,
explained...
I think what they're
let
saying
me-
is it's
let me-
underneath
let-
the solid rock,
let
correct?
let me finish. And I said, your techniques that you published in this magazine is not refereed by scientists. You just
Refereed, I think he means it's not been peer reviewed. Maybe that's what he means.
published it. And number 3, the team that working in Giza with all these new techniques, they said this is wrong. They know.
The team
team?
that's working in Giza with
His
all
team?
these techniques, what do you mean?
we
What
have the
techniques?
scan pyramid team.
Right.
They're working.
But you understand this is different technology.
I understand, but they
Right.
know about this technology.
But have they used this
No,
technology?
they said this technology cannot work, cannot show 600 feet under the pyramid at all. This is what they said. And this is why, if the Italians were confident, they could contact me. I'm the pyramid expert.
Yeah, I wish they did. I actually wish they did. I think now that this has been aired, and that's a good thing about this interview, by the way. It's an excellent thing. Because now he said if they are confident with this technique, and we know they are confident, that's what they are saying, like in the percentage of, it's 90%, I think, that Filippo Biondi says is confident with this. So they are confident. They stated it during the other interviews. For instance, the interview that Filippo Biondi and Armando May had directly with Jay Anderson over our Project Unity channel. I watched that interview in its entirety. It's the one interview where Armando May actually did say that he believes that the shafts underneath the pyramid are either used for structural support or for the production of energy, meaning electricity. So since that has been stated, which of course to me it's nonsense, but regardless, because they said that, and Armando May said that these monuments, the pyramids, do not belong to the Egyptian civilization, his words verbatim, then I think now that Zahi Hawass, Dr. Hawass, said, if they are confident, the Italians, they should contact me. Okay, now the Italians need to contact him because now he said it. And everything we've said so far has been, we wish that someone would allow them to dig, or maybe not them, but that someone would dig to double check if this is true. But this is our point of access now. Do I still think that he's going to say, yeah, okay, let's dig? Not necessarily. I don't think he's going to do it. But he opened a door. Whether he did it for the sake of argumentation now, I don't know. At the end of the day, this is aired. Nothing is scripted here, right? But now he said it. So if the Italians, it's kind of weird to say it that way as an Italian, but whatever. If the Italians contact him, maybe even through Joe Rogan, since he said he's happy to mediate, and if they say, hey, we want to talk about this, then during this live interview between Dr. Hawass and at least Filippo Biondi and Armando May, if Malanga doesn't want to get involved, I don't know. But even if all 3 can be there, then they could say, no, we are confident this is real. And then he's going to say, no, it's all nonsense. And then what's the natural follow-up to that? Well, let's check it. Why don't you dig? Have a look. And then to that, we're going to have an actual response. So the official response is either going to be, no, I'm not going to allow you to dig because this is nonsense. And then that's going to fuel the whole cover-up theory. And at that point, I'm saying, well, sorry, man, but you're giving this to them because you could have done it. There are plenty of holes already. It's not like it's going to be a problem. Just have a look. He has robots, German robots that he has had built to. So he could do it. He could do it. So at that point, if he says no, then he's going to get a lot of backlash for it. So perhaps this could pressure him into saying, just to prove you wrong, use Italians, just to prove you wrong, I'm going to dig and I'm going to bring in the press and then we'll see what happens. I think that could be great for the public. We want to know.
that anyone should.
Well, we'll make sure that happens. But listen, if the stone is 20 feet thick, the
Right.
solid stone at the base, that's correct, right? And you said Osiris shaft is 50 feet.
face.
That means it can see past 20 feet, right?
But how can
So
I?
it could see through the stone and see. I
But-
mean, what
but-
they're showing
But the Osiris
repeated
shaft,
over and over again is these images.
the Osiris shaft is open.
Right.
It's
Right.
not covered to see.
I understand.
You can go and you see the Osiris shaft down.
Right.
Everyone can see it.
But the interior is not open. And the
Well, yeah, but if it's open, and in this case, again, I'm not a supporter of Dr. Hawass, but in this case, I do have to say the point is good. If it's open, then it's also possible that this signal that is sent from the two satellites, because remember, they are recording sound, they're recording vibration. We're working with sound here. So when whether it works or not, and so it goes in, things vibrate, perhaps having access makes it easier. So whereas with what's underneath the pyramids, holes of Amenti, they say, it might be harder because there is the solid bedrock, and then it would have to go underneath that, and then there is the water table. So it's definitely too different, and it's a lot deeper. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot. It's different. It is different. So in this case, I do see where Dr. Hawass is coming from.
interior is
But
visible,
you can see the interior.
but you can't see it to the exact dimensions the way these tomographic images show it, right?
I don't know.
If they're using this technology to go 50 feet under the ground
I'm
to get an
telling you,
accurate depiction
I
of
am
the
not.
Osiris shaft,
I am not a scientist.
I understand, so,
I
but this is my
asked
question.
All
Why
the
would you-
expertise.
why-
Man, I hate that they speak over each other. I think sometimes, on one hand, of course, Joe is the owner of the show, so he needs to be able to ask his question, because his job here is to pressure. It is to push, right? That's how it works. However, I wish that people that go as guests understood that if they speak over each other, it's going to be annoying for the public. No one, it's not going to be advantageous to your point, because you're just going to seem rude at that point. So you got nothing to gain. If you want to gain the support of the public and you want people to see things your way, then at least as a basis you need to be polite and respectful towards the host. And when the host is asking a question, you finish the question and then you give your answer. If the host doesn't allow you to finish your answer, then instead of trying to speak over the host, I think it would be good policy. In that case, you just ask, excuse me, but can I finish my point, please? And I think that way it would be a lot better for all parties involved, us included. The problem with Dr. Hawass is that he's used to doing press conference. I think what he's used to, and this is why he's getting so angry at this point, is because he's not used to people disagreeing and just not accepting everything like it's the gospel. That's how it probably is in Egypt for him, because he's the big guy, he's the big shot, right? So he says how things are and everyone listens and that's it. But in this situation, it's not his natural environment, if you will. And so the fact that someone is pushing back, he doesn't like it because he's not used to it.
Why would you dismiss it if you haven't looked under there?
Because I told you, it is not me who can dismiss this.
What does it say, Jimmy?
This is the link to the original article,
Yes.
I believe.
Mhm.
There's their names.
2022, yeah.
The very first sentence says that
The
due to the
problem with
poor
it?
penetrating action of electromagnetic waves inside solid bodies, the capability to observe these distributed targets is precluded. And then they had to come up with an experimental. It says experimental results are estimated by processing the SAR images else. And so I think that's the disconnect I'm hearing.
Yeah, I don't understand the technology, but my question is, we know how spectacular the pyramids are. We know
Right.
how spectacular just the base of it, the fact that it's carved into solid rock. Why would you not think that maybe other spectacular things exist even
I am
below
not.
it?
I told you, I am not.
That's science.
This type knows about the science. I consulted the team, the top in the world, from Japan, France, and Egypt.
Who are these people?
They are the scan pyramid team.
What's okay? The scan pyramid.
Yeah.
The ones that found
Exactly.
the chamber above.
And they are working with me. And we found many other things in the second pyramid and the third pyramid. And we published this.
Right.
We just published an article
I
last
understand.
week.
Using different
Then what I am
techniques, right?
saying, if these techniques that these two Italians
3.
are correct, the only people who really can tell you it's correct or not are the scan pyramid people.
Or you dig, sir. Because there is, I think it would be much better to dig. I'm just gonna say this. I know people are like, Metatron, why do you keep saying that? Because honestly, I really want to see. I really want to see.
Not me.
But the scan pyramid people, aren't they using different technology?
But they know about technology. They are the top scientists in the world. I have to believe them, not the two Italians.
Yeah.
And if the Italian
Are you being Italian phobic, sir? Huh? Is that it? Is it because we eat pasta and you eat, what does he eat? Couscous? Well, we eat couscous in Sicily. So how about we choose Sicilian scientists next time? So we have one food staple in common.
Italians are really correct, they could come to talk to us.
Okay.
Not me, me and others.
I will definitely try to connect you with
Yeah,
those people.
please.
Because I know that Graham Hancock and Brian Murarescu have been in contact with those people. And they're open-minded about it. They don't know what's going on down there, but these images are repeated over and over and over again.
Fine. But
It's fascinating either way.
Okay.
The repetition is what you need in this case. If we really want to go academic about this, like properly scientific about this, since what Filippo Biondi, which I believe is the point that Joe was trying to make in this case, which I do agree with this point. His point is, we understand that you've got already a scan team. They are the best in the world, and they're using a specific way of scanning the pyramids, and so they say this is impossible. But what Filippo Biondi has claimed, and the other two, is that they're using a new technique. So the real scientific way of approaching this is not to say, well, that's impossible, because, well, if they say it's not impossible, you say it's impossible, but they say it's a new technique. So if it's a new technique, you need to see if it's something that you can replicate. You need to test it. Rather than just saying it's impossible, but then you're not, just because you understand a technique that is similar but different, doesn't work. It's not enough, because they claim it's a new technique. So it could be nonsense, but then we shouldn't just dismiss it and say, no, impossible. We should say, let's test it. Let's replicate it. Test the star technology onto something that is applicable and similar, not the laboratori del Gran Sasso d'Italia, the laboratories that are inside the Massive in Italy, because that's a different environment. Test it into subterranean mines that go 2,000 meters under the ground, which we do absolutely have. Some even reach 4,000 meters under the ground, and they're already mapped the way I understand it. Test it there. Let's see if the mapping is equivalent, and then test it somewhere where we think there is a water table, and let's see if the water is indeed interacting and changing, affecting the measurements. Do that. Test it, give us more examples that are replicable, and then once you have done that, if he still dismisses it, then yes, I'm going to start thinking this guy's covering it up. It's just no, because not necessarily because he's trying to cover up the reptilians, but simply because he's trying to cover up the control of something that he has access to. It could also be for political reasons. We don't know that. But it's possible that this guy, he doesn't look to me like a very open-minded individual, I'll be honest. He looks like someone who is like, I've been doing this for 57 years. I'm from Egypt. I tell you what's right and you listen to me. This is the feel that I get from this guy. I'll just be honest about it. So at that point, if the thing is being replicated and tested and it appears to work, then I think you should either look, right? You should either look down there, or you take a position that is political, which is, I'm the only one allowed, but at that point, we see your true colors. I think that's what you should do. Right. Okay, well, then that's my opinion. This was interesting when it comes to this situation. We'll see how it evolves, but I'm definitely going to continue to monitor. I'm definitely going to continue to monitor the situation and see if this debate happens, and if it does, I'll be reacting to it 100%. But up to that, see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye, number ones.